So I'm going to try and finish out with this one. There is no background music, even though I'm sure you would have loved it, but that's because I'm uploading the other videos to YouTube, so I'm not sure how good the streaming will be if I do both at the same time, so you're just going to have to work with it, so I'll try and make it quick. Alright, the biggest thing that I put right here is don't forget the GCFs, so you might want to highlight that. Okay, again, we always talk about GCF and how that's always the first thing you want to look for because it makes everything just easier. It makes all of your numbers smaller and that kinds of stuff, okay? So, and again, for these, it's going to be a big hint that that's what we're going to do first. So, GCF, when you look at all these numbers, what is their GCF? What can be divided out? Well, we know that that would be a 2, okay? So, divide everything by a 2, and you get 3y squared minus 7y plus 4 instead. So a 2 is going to be a part of your answer. Don't forget about that. That is going to be a part of the final answer, but it's not going to be a part of what we factor. When we factor, when we go to our x, we're still just going to do the first and the last of the trinomial, okay? So we still have to factor the trinomial. The 2 is just going to be a part of the answer out there. So when you multiply first and last, you get 12 and negative 7. So our signs, they're going to be the same sign and they're going to be negative. So that would be both negative. 1 and 12, no. 2 and 6, no. But 3 and 4, yes. Okay, and remember, since this has a leading coefficient, since this one is a more advanced trinomial, now we have to go to our box before we get to the end. The first term goes in the first box, not this. The last term goes in the last box, not this. And then those are going to go in here. And don't forget that when you put them in there, you also need to put in the y so that it'll all factor correctly. So you throw the y in with those numbers. Alright, then we get GCFs, and I think you're getting used to it by now. Bring the y's out. That doesn't have one, so we put a 1. 3y, because they both have a 3y. This one is 4, but when you check, you notice that there's a negative there, so remember, make the number negative. And when you check this one, there's a negative, so make your number negative. So when you list your final answer, it needs to be the GCF and each of the trinomials. Alright, so 2 is our GCF, then y minus 1, then 3y minus 4. So don't forget that not only do you have to put the binomials that you got from here, don't forget your GCF from the very, very beginning. So same idea here. GCF, they all divide by 4, I believe. So that would be 2m squared plus 7m minus 30. Alright, you could use your calculator to divide those. Don't forget this as a part of your answer in the very end. Alright, but it's an advanced trinomial because it has a coefficient right there in the front. So let's put negative 30 times 2 is negative 60 and multiplies to 7. Alright, so they're opposites because it's a negative 60. So one's positive, one's negative. So let's see. 1 and 60 definitely not. They're going to be kind of close together because 7 is not that much of a difference between them. So if you were to try like 10 and 6, that's close because that's a 4. It's actually too close together. So let's make the 10 a little bit larger, so that's 12. And let's make the 6 a little bit smaller, and that's 5. 12 times 5 is 60. I know that because like feet and inches, if you're 5 feet tall, and 12 inches, that means you're 60 inches. Alright, but then they add to 7. You could use your calculator. I just know my numbers, so I just kind of work with them until I get the right combination. Okay, then we have our box. Don't forget, these do not go in. It is these that go in. 2m squared and negative 30. Now we put the two new numbers in there. 12 and negative 5, and don't forget, they both need an m in order to factor accurately the rest of the way. So the GCF here is 2m. The GCF here is a negative 5, because they both are negative, so that gives us that hint to divide a negative 5 out. The GCF here is m, and the GCF here, I believe, is 6. But if I'm wrong, when I check, it wouldn't work. But in this case, it does. So I get negative 30, negative 5m, 2m squared, and 12m. So I do know that I was on the right track. So the entire factor answer is the 4 from the beginning, and then 2m minus 5 and m plus 6. So you do have to include all 3 parts in order to make sure that you have shown all of the factors of that entire trinomial. All right, so hopefully that gets us somewhere. These 2 examples are obviously going to be a part of that. If I've got time, we'll get to them. All right? Thanks, guys.